Hi, this is Cindy from Vintage to New, and today I'm going to show you how to make the inserts to go in the traveler's notebook that we made the other day out of an old hymn notebook. Alright, so let me show you what they're going to look like. So here it is. This first one is a little bit smaller, and then I've got 5 notebooks. Some of them have lined paper. This one has plain paper. This one has the dot paper. Don't know if you can see that dot or not. Another lined paper, and then we're done. So if you would like to have the PDF for this lined paper, dotted paper, and graph paper, I'm going to put a link to my Etsy shop where you can download that and print it as much as you would like. So without delay, let's get started right away making these inserts. So the first thing that we need to do is to look at our book. Even though this book is 8.5 inches tall, we can't use 8.5 by 11 full-size paper because our elastics are at 8.5, actually about 8. And so what I ended up doing is cutting my pages at 7.5, my inserts at 7.5, so that they will fit really good inside the elastics. Alright, so let's get started and I'll show you how to make one. So I've already put 4 inserts in and I only had 4 bands. So what are we going to do? Let's make another one and I'll show you what we're going to do. So to make these inserts, it is so easy. I recommend approximately 10 sheets of just 24-pound weight copier paper. So just fold them in half, the lengthwise for this book. You need to measure the book that you have. Actual traveler's notebooks come in some specific sizes, but sometimes different manufacturers use different sizes. But if you're using a book, you're converting a book into a traveler's notebook, it could be just about any size. So this one, I picked it specifically because it fit an 11-inch sheet of paper folded in half really well. But we are going to have to take some of the width off of it, the height, when it's in the book. So you just fold all your pages in half. Alright, so that went pretty quick. We did all 10. Then we take and we stick them inside of each other. We're building a signature for our book. Pretty simple. Okay. This is a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and I need to cut it down. So we need to cut it 11 inches wide. So I put it on here and just chop off 1 inch this way. Alright, and then I pivot it, and it needs to be 8.5 inches tall, because I'm just going to cut it the same as my paper for now, and then cut all of it down to size. It's just easier to get all the papers lined up. So there's that. And then because I have it, I'm going to use my scoreboard to score this paper at 5.5. So 5.5 is just right here. And my scoreboard has the folding part right there. I don't know why they did that. So I made my mark. I'm going to move it down here to where I have this line and where I can see at the bottom. See, and I still had trouble. So when you just go straight down at 5.5. Okay, so that was that. We're going to take all of our paper, put it in here. Now the only tricky part that's a little different on this is we are going to be cutting this down to 7.5 inches tall because of my book. It fits the best at 7.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 7.5 inches inside here. So there's 7.5 inches, and then I want to come up about an inch from there, about an inch from the top, and just someplace in the middle and make my marks. And you'll see why in a minute. So then I'm just going to put a clip on, grab an old book so I have something that I can poke into, grab my little awl. It needs to have a nice sharp point on it, or you can use a push pin if you don't have an awl, and just go right down straight into those little places we marked. Just that easy. Leave these on. This time I'm going to use just some little cotton thread like this. You can use, you know, for a little booklet like this, 3 strands of embroidery floss would be fine. You could use any really heavy duty sewing thread doubled up, but I'm going to use this today, and a regular needle because this thread is not super thick. What you really don't want is something that stretches. So something like yarn would not be good, because when you pull on yarn, when you pull it nice and tight, it stretches. So that's not good. So I'm just going to double this up, and watch, just this easy. You go through the center hole. Your needle should go right through because you poke those holes. Leave a nice long tail, like so. Come up to either side, poke in. Go out across through the middle, out the other hole. I want a nice long tail, I'll show you why. And then come back up through the same hole, trying not to pierce that thread. Right there. And when you come up, 99% of the time you have both of these threads on the same side as this. You want to come under that so that when you tie this into a knot, it can't get pulled back through that hole. So you do a double knot, nice and tight, leave it nice and long, and your book is bound. It's just that easy. Okay, so then we're going to cut this down to 7.5 inches. So this is the side that I marked that I wanted to cut off. So I'm just going to use my mat because I have it right here, but you could use 2 marks and line it up and do it that way. So it would be right here. Oh, the other thing is put the fold at the top. I find after doing several of these, that's a really good tip, because this fold is harder to cut through. And watch when I do it what we can do with the leftovers as I'm cutting. So get your ruler ready. Grab, I use a razor blade. I've showed you before. Always keep it in a safe place. And also this thin metal ruler, you have to be careful that you don't slip and cut your hand. But I don't like using my big plastic ruler because this cuts on it. So use your discretion. So I'm going to start at this edge, and I'm not going to push really hard. I'm going to take my time, and I find this to be the hardest part of making these books, is having this come out to be really nice. But as you're cutting, watch, you can flip this out of the way, which is really nice. And then just come back up here, cut some more, flip it out of the way. Just keep slicing down through. You're not trying to do it all in one chop. And there. So that's done. And now it worked out pretty well. I think my edge is going to be pretty nice. It is. It's not raggedy. Sometimes for me it turns out raggedy if I try to do too much at one time. Alright, so then whenever you fold paper Do you see how it sticks out here on the edge? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets towards the middle of your booklet. So we need to take that off. And we're going to do that in the same way that we just did it. We're going to make sure it's nice and flat. We're going to place our ruler right on the edge of our paper, our pretty paper, and then we're just going to very gently, we're going to cut that off. And it's not as easy to get rid of the extra pieces this time. But if we keep ourselves going nice and slow, it should work out pretty good for us. All right. And that one turned out pretty good too. Sometimes, well, you can see it's still just a little bit off, so I'm going to turn it over and do it from this side too. Either I didn't have it folded really well, or I didn't get it completely through very well. So just take your time. Like I said, I find this to be the hardest part of this whole project, is getting these edges just really nice. But you know what? It's a handmade item. We don't have the giant guillotine like they have at the book press place where they just cut it with a big blade. So if it's not exactly perfect, especially your first few times, be gentle with yourself. It's okay. All right, let's see what we've got. Much better. So there's that one. All done. So here is our 5th booklet. How are we going to put this in? Because we don't have a band here to put it on. We only have one band here. And that's where this one was. So what you do is you cut a piece of your elastic that you use to make your book. You put it down the center of this book. And on this one, I put a really cute little bead at the end here just to make it pretty. All right, and then I'm going to take this book and go right up through here. So it's like this, see? And then we just come over here to this elastic and push it in. So now I have 5 notebooks in this little traveler's notebook. Pretty cool, huh? So I also wanted to show you why we left such a long tail here. On this one, I left a long tail and I added some charms and beads here at the bottom. All right. And I did the same over here. And these are actually just for decoration, but they just look really cute hanging out the bottom of your book. Okay, so we have the inserts into our journal, and I think what we're going to do next time is make a little plate here for the front to tell me what's inside each one of these journals.